Hello, I'm Nick Simon from Nottingham, and I'm the Nottingham organiser of New Culture Forum. The views expressed in this video are my own views. I'm not acting as a spokesman for New Culture Forum. So today I need to say something good about the Conservative Party. And I can hear the boos, I can hear the hisses. I know that many of you hate and despise the Conservative Party, and with good reason. But today I must say something good about the Conservative Party. But first, I must say some very, very, very horrible things about the Conservative Party in the interest of balance, and because we must be realistic about where the Conservative Party have put themselves. So, what I'm talking about today is the Conservative Parliamentary Party, the Conservative MPs. And these despicable characters over the last few years have behaved in such an appalling way, and they've made several major mistakes, and the major mistakes basically can be summed up by a total disrespect for democracy, a total disrespect for the wishes of the members, and a total disrespect for the wishes of the general public's votes. Basically, an arrogant attitude of we know best, and we're not listening to you, we're not interested in democracy, we know best. Excuse me. So first, the Conservative Parliamentary Party conspired to get rid of the democratically elected Prime Minister of the day, Boris Johnson. The same Boris Johnson who won an 80-seat stonking majority. And with the help, Boris had the help of Dominic Cummings, who came up with the phrase, "Get Brexit done." Now, later on in the video, I'll give you my own phrase, which I want you to remember. But that's for later in the video. But Boris Johnson and the phrase, "Get Brexit done," chimed with the voters at the time. And Boris Johnson won a democratically elected, stonking 80-seat majority. But the Parliamentary Party of MPs had decided he wasn't the Prime Minister that they wanted, and they set about trying to bring him down. And when Boris Johnson was eventually brought down, but the last thing that brought him down was an incident whereby an MP known to Boris Johnson drunkenly groped another man in the Carlton Club. This was an incident that's obviously regrettable, but Boris Johnson was not even there. And the second thing was, Boris Johnson was accused of eating a slice of birthday cake during lockdown. This was when he ventured into a drinks get-together that had been organised by the number 10 staff, the civil service. Nothing to do with Boris Johnson. Because it happened to be on his birthday, he was blamed for eating a slice of birthday cake and partying during lockdown. Boris Johnson has since said he may well have stumbled into the room, but he didn't even see a birthday cake or a cake of any kind. Both of these are totally and utterly pathetic, petty-minded reasons. You don't get rid of an elected Prime Minister with an 80-seat majority for either of these issues, but they did. They used it to bring Boris Johnson down, and in so they disrespected the voters and they disrespected democracy completely. So after Boris Johnson was brought down and forced to resign, the Conservative Party had to have a leadership contest, and they had a long and democratic leadership contest. And the comfortable winner voted for by the members was Liz Truss. I voted for Liz Truss as a Conservative Party member, and many of the Conservative members that I spoke to at the time that voted for Liz Truss, the theme was, they said, we haven't voted for Liz Truss, we've voted to stop Rishi Sunak. They could see what was happening, that the Parliamentary Party had their man in mind, which was Rishi Sunak, and they wanted to force him into number 10. And the Conservative Party members rejected that. So basically what these people were saying to me privately was, we would have voted for anybody other than Rishi Sunak. We did not want Rishi Sunak to be leader. So Liz Truss won the vote among the members, and she achieved a certain degree of electoral mandate. She became Prime Minister, and then the same parliamentary MPs who have no respect for democracy, the wishes of the members, the wishes of the general public, got rid of Liz Truss within around about 5 weeks, forced her to resign, and she was forced to resign. Now, first of all, the narrative that's used by the media: Liz Truss crashed the economy, Liz Truss put your mortgage up. That is a lie. It's a narrative and a lie. Interest rates had been artificially low for years. They went up all over Europe and all over America. Everywhere in Europe, in Britain and in America, the mortgage rates went up. It was nothing whatsoever to do with Liz Truss. It was market forces. You are being lied to by the mainstream media. Now, what actually happened, the technical way that Liz Truss was removed, was a plot. So what happened was, the Bank of England knew exactly what was in Liz Truss's mini-budget. But 3 days before the mini-budget was delivered, the Bank of England did ill-advised quantitative tightening, which is reducing the money supply. And they knew that the combination of reducing the money supply, quantitative tightening, combined with the measures in Liz Truss's mini-budget, would cause some panic and a minor spike on the markets. I remember Liam Halligan saying at the time, the spike on the markets will last a couple of days, it's nothing to worry about, they just need to struggle on. But of course, that's not what the plotters saw, and they used it to bring down Liz Truss. So I believe this was a plot between the Bank of England working with the Treasury, working with the Cabinet Office, working with Rishi Sunak's team. And it was a definite and deliberate plot to bring down Liz Truss. So when anybody says Liz Truss crashed the economy and put your mortgage rates up, that is a lie. Liz Truss was removed from office by plotters surrounding Rishi Sunak. So then, Rishi Sunak was put in a position to potentially become Prime Minister. But the Conservative Party should have had a leadership contest. But this was scuppered, and this was the most gutter politics of everything I'm going to talk about today. The 1922 committee and its then chairman waded into the gutter when he came out and said, we've changed the rules for the reasons of speed. We're going to make sure that anyone, now that Liz Truss has resigned, we're going to make sure that whoever wants to lead the Conservative Party must have 100 MP backers, knowing full well that Rishi Sunak already had those 100 MP backers. It was out of the gutter. They just wanted their man in. It was a change from the normal rules. If the 1922 committee had said, we are going to insist that anyone that wants to be leading needs the backing of 50 MPs, there would have been 3, 4, possibly 5 candidates who would have been whittled down to 2. This process would have taken 2 weeks maximum. So 2 weeks to preserve democracy in the scheme of things would have been worth it. But instead, the chairman of the 1922 committee deliberately bent the rules, deliberately made sure that Rishi Sunak got through, because they knew he had 100 MP backers, and Boris Johnson didn't quite get 100. I believe he had 90 something, I'm not sure, but he basically resigned, and that was the end of the contest. Now, if the 1922 committee had said, anyone wants to be leader will have to get 50 backers, you would have had, as I said, 3, 4 or 5 candidates, and it would have been whittled down very quickly to the last 2. That last 2 would have been Rishi Sunak and Boris Johnson. That would have gone out to the members. Boris Johnson would have won by about 75% of the vote of the members. Boris Johnson would have been returned as Prime Minister. Boris Johnson, excuse me, Boris Johnson had a democratic right to be Prime Minister. Boris Johnson would have been returned to his rightful place, and the result of the subsequent general election might have been very, very, very different. But the gutter performance goes on, because when Boris Johnson resigned, and I will first mention that a female news reader read out that Boris Johnson resigned and was actually cheering on the screen. I really hope that person is never in the media again, and certainly not paid for in the media again, because the bias was absolutely gross. But there's another point that a lot of people miss. The 1922 committee could easily have brought democracy into the process. When Boris Johnson left the contest and there was only Rishi Sunak left, the right thing to do, the democratic thing to do, would have been to have a confirmatory ballot among the Conservative Party members. Excuse me. The ballot would have been, we have one candidate, Rishi Sunak. Do you want him to become your Prime Minister, yes or no? And if they'd voted no, there would have had to have been another leadership election. Now, had they had that confirmatory vote among the Conservative Party members, the Conservative Party members would have voted no, we do not want Rishi Sunak. And the 1922 committee knew that, so once again, they sidestepped democracy, they sidestepped the Conservative Party membership, and they put their man, Rishi Sunak, into number 10 Downing Street with no general election mandate and no mandate from the party members. The Rishi Sunak was in number 10 Downing Street with no mandate. Excuse me. Now, you remember early on when I said that Boris Johnson had got a slogan which was given to him by Dominic Cummings, which was "Get Brexit Done." Well, I've got a slogan, and I want you to remember this slogan, and I want you to repeat this slogan to any Conservative MP that you meet, to any Conservative activist that you meet, to any Conservative member that you meet, or even to anyone perhaps down the pub that says they voted Conservative. To anyone, just say this: Rishi Sunak should never, ever have been made Prime Minister. Rishi Sunak should never, ever have been made Prime Minister. Because it was totally undemocratic and it was without mandate. And when you bypass democracy, the British people, and I'm very proud of them, will turn their backs on you. And that's exactly what happened in the last general election. Nobody voted for Rishi Sunak. And they didn't, because, and I knew they wouldn't in 2023. It was totally obvious what was going to happen. Conservative Party members like me would not vote for Rishi Sunak on principle. So I went out, I didn't want to waste my vote, so I went out and voted for reform. Many Conservative many Conservative members, and a huge number of the general public who would have normally voted Conservative, probably voted for Boris Johnson beforehand, simply did not vote on principle because they would not vote for the unelected and unwanted Rishi Sunak. They just refused to vote for him. So you could argue that although Labour have got an enormous majority now, they didn't really win the general election. Rishi Sunak lost the general election for the Conservatives. Rishi Sunak lost the general election. And Labour coming into power was just the result of that. They were the only other party that was possible to win. So the whole Rishi Sunak affair has been appalling. Rishi Sunak should never have been made Prime Minister. So where are we today, and what did I want to say about the Conservative Party that is good? Well, just today, the Conservative Party, having had a democratic leadership election contest, just today, the Conservative Party have voted Kemi Badenoch as their new leader. Now, out of the last four, and all along, I have totally backed Kemi Badenoch. Out of the last four, she's miles ahead of the others on intelligence, and she's miles ahead of the other three on understanding of the brief. So I'm delighted that Kemi Badenoch has won the Conservative Party leadership today. She is the right person for the job. But is that the good thing that I wanted to say about the Conservatives? No, it's not. The good thing and the good moment, the moment that really, really changed for me, was the moment when the Conservative Parliamentary Party made it that the last two in the contest were Kemi Badenoch and Robert Jenrick. That was the moment when I realised that the Conservative Parliamentary Party had finally learned their lesson. Because don't believe any narrative you hear about Kemi Badenoch. Don't believe any narrative you hear about Robert Jenrick. Both those candidates are first class. Both those candidates are proper centre-right traditional Conservatives. Both of those candidates are not part of the One Nation Social Democrat Rishi supporting Liberal group that Tom Tugendhat and James Cleverly very definitely are a part of. But both Kemi Badenoch and Robert Jenrick are proper, genuine, centre-right Conservatives, and whichever one of them had won, they would have both been first class. And I'm absolutely delighted that the Conservative Parliamentary Party realised that they must learn their lesson and they must deliver two first-class, centre-right, genuine Conservatives. Kemi Badenoch is an authentic Brexiteer, always has been. Robert Jenrick voted Remain, but he's become a Brexiteer. But they are both first-class candidates. The better one, in my opinion, has won. But the Conservative Party, in putting those two candidates into the last two and allowing the members to vote for two true Conservatives, the Conservative Party has finally learned its lesson. So we have a first-class leader of the Conservative Party in Kemi Badenoch and a first-class leader, a centre-right leader of the Reform Party in Nigel Farage. Now, the Reform Party cannot win a general election on their own, and they know that. The Conservative Party cannot win a general election without those 4 million votes that went to Reform at the last general election. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Conservative Party and the Reform Party need to unite. Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage need to bang their heads together. They need to unite. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to unite the right and get rid of this truly awful Labour government once and for all. So thank you for watching. I'm Nick Simon. If you're in the media like GB News, Talk TV or whatever, and you would like to have me on the channel, please contact me by email. I am at nick@fastlabellingsolutions.co.uk. I'll move that up a bit. nick@fastlabellingsolutions.co.uk. And you can look at my X @Nick Simon TV. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Nick Simon from Nottingham. Bye.